Let us look at some of the important projects that are being run in the Arctic. Circumpolar Biodiversity Monitoring Program is an important program which is being monitored by Arctic Council. The main objective is to summarize status and trends in key biotic elements called focal ecosystem components of the Arctic and report or communicate the findings to key decision makers and stakeholders so that the effective conservation and adaptation responses to changes in Arctic biodiversity can be carried out. It is a flagship program of conservation of Arctic flora and fauna, the Arctic Council's Biodiversity Working Group. The team of experts comprises of an international network of scientists, governments, indigenous organizations and conservation groups. The CBMP facilitates monitoring through the implementation of 4 Arctic biodiversity monitoring plans, which are marine, coastal, freshwater and terrestrial. So here are the CBMP biodiversity indices and indicators. Species composition, that is Arctic Species Trend Index. Trends in the indicators are FECs. Trends in abundance, Arctic Red List Index, changes in status, trends in total species. So this is about the species. And they also study about ecosystem structures where Arctic Trophic Level Index and Water Quality Index is being monitored. Ecosystem function and services, habitat extent and change in quality, human health and well-being, policy responses. So these are all the various biodiversity indices and indicators which are studied by CBMP. Here are some of the tools to analyze the changes in the plant adaptations. For example, DNA analysis and barcoding is done. So some examples include, this is used in the population studies, species identification, presence or absence of a taxa, diet analysis and food web dynamics. Phylogeographic and phylogenetic analysis. This is to understand diversification, distinguishing expanding immigrant lineages from endemic taxa, tracing the origin of individuals following colonization routes, and tracing species invasion and epidemics. Then there is also population genetics, comparative studies of functional genes, biogeochemical analysis of stable isotope signatures, contaminant and trace element. This is very important because this helps in understanding the species movement, investigating population decline, inferring diet and shift in tropics level, and environmental conditions including the presence of toxins, because these are very crucial. They exert a negative effect on the plant growth. For example, temporal diet shift and population bottlenecks have been inferred for some avian species following DDT exposure. In the later part, we will be studying about what are the different types of pollutants and how they affect the Arctic ecosystem. There we will be studying more about this kind of pollutant exposure and how it is being monitored and how it affects the Arctic ecosystem. Then behavioral focal studies. Here people study about movement, habitat use, threats to populations and their location, and the adaptive potential of populations as prey distribution shift or as food webs change. Let us look at how these scientists carry out all these things. They collect data and they analyze the data. So how do they collect the data? Arctic tundra greenness has been monitored from space since 1982 by the Advanced Very High Resolution Radiometer, and since 2000 by the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectra Radiometer, MODIS. Both satellite sensors monitor vegetation greenness using the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index or NDVI, a spectral metric that exploits the unique way in which the green vegetation reflects light in the visible and the infrared wavelength. So using this, people can study how much green plants are present in the Arctic region. The low altitude remote sensing and field-based studies provide detail and context for understanding changes in the vegetation and landscape features that underlie the greenness trend observed by satellites. So monitoring only from the satellite, that is above ground, from a very far height in the atmosphere, does not actually show the ground reality. So people also monitor the ground-based studies, field studies also they carry out to cross-verify and confirm what the satellite data is given is accurate or not. The emergence of spaceborne satellite sensor and unoccupied aerial systems, drones, that is, they have opened new windows to study the influence of shrub increase both in Arctic greening and on the structure and function of ecosystems in the specific tundra landscapes. So here is the data which is collected here. The maximum NDVI is given here. This is a unitless quantity, and from 1980 to 2020 people had observed it. So depending on different satellite, people had measured the values at different places. In 2020, there is a record high Arctic surface temperature and record low snow cover. So this has been observed by the satellites. In 2021, the circumpolar mode is observed max NDVI value declined 2.7 from the previous year, but was still the second highest value in the 22-year record for the sensor. So this clearly tells what is the change that is actually taking place. The AVHRR record also indicates increasing annual mean circumpolar max NDVI for both the full record and for the period overlap of MODIS with 2000-2020. So here we can see how the data are actually correlated. Let us look at what is greening and browning, which we have been discussing so far. In North America, greening has been the strongest in the northern Alaska and the mainland, because Arctic region has 8 countries. So North America has Alaska and the Canada are the 2 parts which are present here. So here we can see the greening. In these regions, we see more greens that is happening. So this is what is called Arctic greening. And we have flat or negative, which is called browning trends, are evident in parts of Canadian Arctic archipelago and southwestern Alaska. So these areas are the browning areas. And in Eurasia, strong greening has occurred in the Russian area. So this Russian area had seen more greening in the Arctic region, but the browning is evident in the East Siberian Sea sector and parts of Timor Peninsula. So only in this part, very small part, we have seen that. How do we interpret the greening trends? See, increase in abundance of height of the Arctic shrubs are the key drivers of Arctic greening and have important impacts on biodiversity, surface energy balance, permafrost temperatures, and biogeochemical cycling. But many Arctic landscapes are complex mosaics of lakes, ponds, marshes, and vegetated terrain, and this heterogeneity presents challenge in quantifying the drivers and impacts of shrubs increase on tundra ecosystems. So there is no homogeneity or uniformity. Regional contrast in greenness highlight the complexity of Arctic change and the rich web of interactions that exist between tundra ecosystems and the local properties of sea ice, permafrost, seasonal snow, soil composition and moisture, disturbance processes, wildlife, and human activities.